and welcome back to the webinar. Hope you've had a good month. Good to see you all again. We're covering a couple of things today. The US elections and the Singularity. Fascinating topic. I attended the Singularity Summit, South Africa, last week. So it'll be good to discuss that. And I'll use markets as a segue, first of all, into the US election, because it is all about the US election, which is next week, Tuesday, 5th of November. And some of you may be watching a recording of this, so will know what has happened. But this is in advance. And markets this year have been partly about the US election, particularly of late, but also really powered by the US. Take a look at this chart. It shows the UK market, the European market, and then at the top, the S&P 500, the US market. And you can see that Europe stroke UK are up kind of 5 or 8% this year, kind of a normal year, I'd say. And then the US market is up well north of 20%. A lot of reasons for that. One of them actually being since pre-COVID to now, so taking out that trough in activity from pre-COVID to today, the US economy is about 10% bigger than it was pre-COVID, 10% larger. Whereas you take European economies, they're kind of 1% larger. So the US is really powering ahead, and partly driven by technology, of course, and that'll be relevant to today's discussion. And then of late, we've really seen a marked shift in US markets in response to an emerging trend in the US election. So we've seen the market quite strong. We've seen the bond market quite weak. And so this shows the yield on US treasuries. So the 10-year yield has gone from, give or take, 3.5%, 3.6%, up to more like 4.2%. So that's increase in yield, so a fall in price. And that's factoring in slightly higher inflation expectations. And I'll come back onto why that is. But the essence is the market is starting to factor in, for better or for worse, a Trump victory in the US election, which is what it seems to be heading towards, although it is still very, very close. But the markets are saying Trump is more likely to win than not. And that's reflected also in kind of inflation hedges, and Trump will be more stimulative of the economy. More money pumped into the economy. We'll come back onto that. And that will mean, all other things being equal, higher inflation, higher interest rates. And that's been reflected in inflation hedges like gold and silver. They've had extraordinary years, again, for lots of reasons of late because of the election. So as that, silver's up 40% this year. Gold is up 13 a bit percent. Luckily, I did flag that a little while ago, so hopefully you've got some of those. And Bitcoin's had a standout year. Again, we talked about that a little while ago. I saw this Bitcoin ATM in Johannesburg just a couple of weeks ago. And Bitcoin also is up about 50 or 55% year to date. So again, an inflation hedge. So what's happening in the US election? Well, it's very, very close. These are the latest national polls. It puts Harris on, give or take, 49% of the vote, Trump on about 48% of the vote. So Harris is 1% ahead, give or take, in the latest conglomeration of national polling. The however is that traditionally the Democrats need to win the national level poll by around 4 percentage points to win the Electoral College, because of the way the Electoral College works in America. So right now, that neck-and-neck position, which is reflected in the betting markets, and if you look at Polymarket, which is my kind of go-to in terms of people betting on the outcome. It's not a poll, it's people betting real money on the outcome of an election. This shows that Kamala Harris is 58% likely to win the national level. So she is likely to win the popular vote at a national level, 58% on. However, it's not who wins the national poll, it's who wins the Electoral College. And that comes down to a large extent, to an overwhelming extent, to the swing states. It's the swing states that matter. And they kind of vary in terms of the number, but right now there seem to be 6 or 7 of them. This is the latest polling in the swing states. Trump is in red, Harris is in blue. And if you scan across Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, the key one, and Wisconsin, Trump is ahead in the polls in 6 of the 7 swing states, only by a small amount, but ahead in 6 of the 7 of them. And so what that tends to translate into is a better performance in the Electoral College. And whoever wins the Electoral College wins the election. And the other thing which is important for voters, if you look at polls in those swing states, the thing which is important for voters, overridingly, is the economy. And Trump is more trusted just on the economy than Harris. This is the very latest poll. And so that trust in the economy is important in those swing states for Trump. And the other thing which doesn't come through in that poll is people's experience, crucially within the economy, of inflation. Now, there's lots of factors in this in terms of the inflation record of the Trump administration, 2016 to 2020, versus Harris-Biden, 2020-2024. These are the prices of goods during those periods. Now, this is not necessarily Trump's fault or Harris's fault or Biden's fault. A lot of factors, mostly money printing by the Fed, but this is what voters experience in terms of those administrations. And you can see that under Trump, prices were under control, stroke falling, stroke rising, excuse me, very modestly. Under Harris-Biden, we've seen inflation go to 9% on an annualized basis, stay there for a little while. It's now come down to about 3%. But if you work out the price increase, prices are up about 30% overall during the Biden-Harris administration. And you can see certain of them. Car insurance is up 56% in America. Fuel oil up 38%. Eggs are up 70%. Margarine up 54%. Peanut butter, that's bad for Americans, up 42%. Pet food up 23%. So that's a problem. And that's probably one of the bigger problems that Harris currently has. So if you look at the likely winner of the Electoral College, i.e. the election, currently Trump is 67% odds on to win, and Harris is 33%. So this is what's driving the markets. We still have a few days to go, and there's going to be a frenetic activity, as we can see as we speak. Oh, before I get there, excuse me, sorry about that. Before we get there, the betting markets are also suggesting that we might get a Republican, i.e. Trump, clean sweep of Congress and Senate, as well as the White House. So it's 47% on that we get a clean sweep, which will give Trump all the power he might want, for better or for worse. Still a lot to play for. We've still got a few days to go. By the end of this election, the candidates combined will have spent, give or take, $5 billion, which is quite remarkable. So an avalanche of ads and social media activity in the coming days. I certainly hope for a clear-cut winner, whoever it is. I just hope we get a clear-cut winner and there's no dispute in terms of the election outcome, because things could get very difficult if that happens. So I'm hoping for a clear-cut winner, and then we can all move on in terms of what the policies might be. Given the odds are currently in favor of Trump, it's worth spending a moment. Oh, I'm sorry, this is Trump post his visit to McDonald's, which I thought was quite a clever meme. Couldn't resist putting that in. But given that the markets are suggesting that Trump will win, I've been saying actually he's likely to win for some time. This is a partisan, kind of labeling in terms of the likely policies. But the policies are on his website. It's very clear what he will do. And if I could sum it up in quite briefly, it'll be a secure border in terms of illegal immigration. I emphasize the word illegal. Number two, it'll be a return to kind of stricter law and order within the cities in America, which has become a problem. Number three, it'll be a very stimulative policy in terms of fiscal policy for the economy in America. So lower taxes, personal and corporate, lower regulations, fiscal stimulus. So you're going to see a stronger American economy, hence more inflation, hence a stronger dollar, hence higher interest rates. Clamp down on crime. And then overseas, rather boldly, they've put here world peace, which is a bit of a stretch. But there certainly will be a rapprochement in terms of the Ukrainian situation, most likely the Middle East, a pushback on China, a pushback on North Korea, in a sense, a repeat of what we saw in Trump version 1, but with more, I'll call it, power in terms of Trump's ability to govern, for better or for worse. And we'll see how that goes in terms of the US elections and the outcome. But here's hoping for a clean outcome. I think that's the main message. Meanwhile, one other thing before I get into the Singularity, and it is a segue into the Singularity, one of the most extraordinary engineering feats of all time occurred on the 13th of October. I mustn't let it go by without mentioning it. SpaceX, led by our old friend Elon Musk, did the most extraordinary thing. This is the Starship spaceship, which at launch has a payload of, or fuel load, I should say, of 5,000 tons. So the Starship weighs 5,000 tons on launch, which is 10 times the weight of the International Space Station, the heaviest object ever built. He launched it, and at the first attempt, caught it coming back to Earth, 250 tons worth, in these kind of chopstick affairs. And I'm sure you've seen the video. If you haven't, you must watch it. It is the most extraordinary thing possibly ever, and couldn't have been done without the power of artificial intelligence, you know, correcting that rocket the whole time, and the power of engineering within it. And we'll get onto that in a second. But the most extraordinary feat, and it's important because it's all about reusability of the rocket and swift reusability. So you catch the rocket, you replace a fuel tank underneath, and off it goes again, and it comes back, off it goes again. And that means that the population of Mars, which was science fiction 5 years ago, is going to potentially start. And in 2 years' time, the Starship will head to Mars, uncrewed, and within 4 years, if that goes well, then humans, up to 100 humans on this spaceship, called the Starship, will head to Mars. It's estimated you need 1,000 of these starships to enable colonization of Mars. So extraordinary times we live in. And what it's also done is made the cost of going to space much, 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 much cheaper. So this shows you the cost of launch to low Earth orbit in dollars per kilogram. So if you go back to the Saturn V rocket in the 1970s, or the space shuttle, you were paying, give or take, $12,000, $13,000 per kilogram of payload. And that was the case all the way up till SpaceX. And when Elon Musk went into this 20 years ago now, he said that the aim is to make space travel cheaper, because then it can become, we can inhabit other planets. And the dollar per kilogram of Starship is not $12,000, $13,000, it is $200. Exponential improvement. And the aim is to get that $200 down to $1 a kilogram. And when they're launching 1,000 Starships, then the scale will give you that kind of payload cost. So extraordinary times. And we will continue to live in extraordinary times because we are hurtling towards the Singularity. And I've got the two books behind me by Ray Kurzweil. The Singularity is Near. This was published in 2005, which is when I first started reading about this. And it's an extraordinary book which predicted from 2005 on the implications of exponentiality in terms of human and technological progress. Ray Kurzweil is the principal researcher today at Google and the AI visionary at Google. Extraordinary person, and set up the Singularity University. That was in 2005, and published another book there. The Singularity is Nearer. Singularity is Near. It's now nearer. This was published in 2024, this year. So 20 years on from the first one. And the prediction is the same, that the Singularity, which I shall define in a second, will happen in 2045. So only 20 years from now. And 20 years is not that long. I'll be in my mid-70s. I'm certainly hoping to see it. And if I do see it, then life will be very, very different to what it is today, including life longevity. What is the Singularity? Quote, it's a future period during which the pace of technological change will be so rapid, its impact so deep, that human life will be irreversibly transformed. Let me be more specific about that. And I'll leave you with a quote here as well in terms of 2045. I see the date for the Singularity representing a profound and disruptive transformation in human capability as 2045. That's been consistent for the last 20 years. The non-biological intelligence created in that year will be 1 billion times more powerful than all of human intelligence today. So what we're talking about here is exponential change. So the doubling of computer power every 18 months, and I'll take a break from slides here. Computer power doubles every 18 months. We've known that since 1965 and Moore's Law, Andy Moore, co-founder of Intel. That doubling on a compounded higher base means that progress becomes exponential and faster and faster and faster. At some point, that pace of change becomes so quick, it becomes effectively instantaneous, which is very hard to fathom. And that really happens when machines start teaching themselves to progress. And that started happening this year. The biological singularity is at that point or around that point, we as humans start to fully merge with technology. And we become cyborgs in terms of our digital and biological beings. And by 2045, that is predicted to happen. So let's go through what this could mean and what it's meaning today. It's all based around, well, not all, but a lot of it is being coalesced into AI, which is coming through today. And there are 3 levels of AI, just to be clear. Today, we have artificial narrow intelligence, which is ANI, which is ChatGPT. It can execute specific tasks within a focused area incredibly well. And I'll come on to that in a second. Next level, artificial general intelligence, where the AI approaches human level capacity across broad tasks. It has reasoning and can self-improve its capabilities, convincing humans that it is itself human. And we're getting to that pretty quickly, I would argue, certainly towards 2030. Then you got artificial superintelligence, which is really into the late 2030s, into the 2040s, where AI or ASI will outperform human intelligence in every field. It'll then either help to achieve societal objectives or it'll threaten us as humans. So what's happening today in artificial narrow intelligence, ChatGPT world? Specific tasks done better than humans. If you look at the ability of AI compared to a human, be it in reading, image recognition, language understanding, handwriting recognition, predictive reasoning, it's outperforming us today. And we've shared charts before, and we've talked before about its ability in exam results. The latest ChatGPT is now PhD level in all the STEM subjects. So very powerful tool already today. And of course, it's becoming smarter by the month. This is the IQ test result of the various ChatGPT type AI platforms today. You've got Gemini, you've got ChatGPT itself, you've got Claude, you've got Llama from Facebook, you've got Grok from Elon Musk, and they're all clustered around the IQ of about 90. Don't forget, IQ is a slightly broader test. The average human's IQ is 100, give or take. Elon Musk, for the record, is 155. Albert Einstein was 160. Anything above 140 is classed as genius. The latest ChatGPT, O1, has an IQ of 120. So when that becomes part of us, the whole human race will be 20% smarter. Or by the time that happens, we'll be 40% smarter, and whatever the number is. So AI is moving very quickly and is impacting how we live already. And what is happening right now, and this was surprising, I'll leave it on this chart for a second. This was surprising this year. AI, as well as starting to teach itself, started to generate emergent abilities. And one of the important ones was it developed what's called theory of mind. Now, theory of mind is my ability, when I'm talking to you, to have kind of make a judgment call in terms of what you might be thinking based on what I'm saying to you. It's a little bit of empathy, and it's a little bit of it's a very human interaction. That theory of mind develops at around the age of 2 to 4. So if you ask a 2-year-old who's just taken a cookie from the cookie jar, did you take a cookie from the cookie jar? He'll say, yes, I did, because he's not thinking what you're thinking, which is that was a bad thing to do. By the time you get to 4 years old, you ask the same child, did you take the cookie? You said, I don't remember doing that, because you think he's going to get told off. By the time he gets to 8, he's starting to blame his siblings because he's getting cleverer. This is what AI is starting to do. It's starting to develop theory of mind. Now, theory of mind is incredibly important in terms of human interactions. It's also critical in terms of teaching people. So this is transformative for education. if you look at educative ability of children, if they get a personal one-on-one tutor today, a human tutor, one-on-one, as opposed to 30 to 1 in many class sizes or even more, one-on-one, the A-level success rate moves to 98%. So imagine when you've got your AI teaching you one-on-one, every single person in the world. That in itself will make people much, much smarter. What it also means is that AI has become empathetic this year, and it's been tested against doctors. This figure shows you physicians, i.e. doctors, against the chatbot in terms of be it cancer patients or other ailments, illnesses, how empathetic is your doctor and how smart is he or she? Firstly, how smart are they? Physicians, quality. Physicians, acceptable in terms of quality of diagnosis. Acceptable, fine, good, good. We trust our doctors, they're great. Chatbot, not acceptable, good or very good. So the quality of the diagnosis of the chatbot exceeds already your physician. And there'll come a time, I'm sure, when it'll become malpractice for a doctor not to have checked his AI before diagnosing you. Empathy ratings on the right. From not empathetic to very empathetic, left to right. Physicians, not very empathetic. I think we know that. Doctors tend not to be. There are certainly exceptions, and I love doctors, but a lot of them not very empathetic. Chatbot, very empathetic. Extraordinary. And this means that AI will transfuse into everything we're doing, one of which is humanoid robots, which is why the other thing which Elon Musk launched at the same time as launching the space Starship a couple of weeks ago was the latest version of the Optimus humanoid robot, an extraordinary thing. And these humanoid robots will become part of our lives within the next 5 years, around the house and in work environments. And this is a very good slide from David Roberts at the Singularity Summit, which we co-sponsored, by the way, as Old Mutual. We're very excited about that. It's a wonderful thing to be there for that. The advantages of humanoid robots, I took this from the screen. Never late for work, never get sick compared to humans. These are robots. Work tirelessly, don't need healthcare, they don't go on strike. No unexpected emergencies, easy to scale the workforce, no need to hire, fire, training costs, consistently output, no workplace harassment, no awkward drunk holiday parties, less parking space, less middle management, can instruct them in any language, on and on it goes. So you can see how transformative AI in a humanoid robot will become. And once you put AI intelligence within a humanoid robot who's wandering around in the world, it learns incredibly quickly. This is why Tesla cars are so powerful, because they're learning from the environment the entire time and they can translate that into the humanoid robot, which is why Musk will win again. So every single industry will be transformed and disrupted in the next 5 to 10 years. From media to sports to insurance to beauty to finance, everything. Even podcasts. This may be my digital twin. At the summit, we were treated to a video between Peter Diamandis, who's the co-founder of Singularity University, with Ray Kurzweil. Peter Diamandis and his digital twin. They did a podcast together. AI created a digital twin of himself and he did podcasts with him. Remarkable things going on. But how will we translate this AI into the real world? From our bodies into the AI space? You can't just look at a screen the whole time. And this is where spatial computing comes in. Starting with the rather clunky Vision Pro from Apple, but amazing experience. Vision Pro, the first movies come out on Vision Pro. If you haven't tried it, I would recommend it. It's come to South Africa now. Submerged, I'm sure that'll be an amazing experience. I'm looking forward to it. And Vision Pro already is creating a different way of working, an immersive experience in virtual reality and augmented reality. So this is where AI starts to speak to us, and you can watch a movie quite happily. You can watch do your work and watch photographs in 3D and panoramic photographs and store, if you like, banks of personal memories. Will AI preserve your most precious memories? You can now take spatial videos with I'll come to this in a second, and store them, personal memory banks. At some point, your brain will become your personal memory bank in digital space and be stored forever. AI will translate its power through our bodies in terms of wearables, in terms of the clothing we wear, in terms of the watches we wear, the rings we wear, the glasses we wear, maybe the headsets in some subtle way. And then we'll get to Neuralink in a second. So this is how AI subsumes itself into the human body, all the power I've just talked about. And this is what leads to the singularity. And then, of course, it becomes embedded within the body. And I'll come on to nanobots in a second, and how those abilities of AI become embedded into our bodies. These photographs, by the way, are AI generated. These are not normal humans. And it's already here, to an extent. It's not quite clunky, but these are the new Meta glasses, the Ray-Bans. You wear them, you can talk to your things. It's just normal glasses. Hey, Meta, look at this building. Tell me about it. The glasses go away, do their Google search, relate through your bone structure, your jaw structure into your ear, and you know everything that's going on around you in an AI world. You can take videos with it. Taking a video, you can live stream on it if that's what you like to do. As long as you tell the people you're live streaming, there is a little light which flags that fact. Or just chilling out. No one knows you listen to music. You're just walking around with your glasses or sunglasses on. And then human trials have started already, in fact. They started last year or earlier this year. Human trials are now starting with multiple people for Neuralink. So Neuralink is another of Elon Musk's many businesses, which is a brain implant. And we've talked about this a number of times. An implant which is implanted into your skull, and the threads go into your brain, physically go into your brain, and connects your brain to a digital world. At the moment, it's being used to make your brain talk better to your body, to solve paralysis, to solve other forms of brain disorders which stop your body working properly. In due course, it'll be able to connect you to the internet full time. And that knowledge will start to imbibe themselves into your brain. And at some point, Neuralink merges your brain with AI. So this is where we get into the realm of the coming singularity. But before we get there, we have to be able to live long enough. So we've got super powerful AI. We've got the ability to bring it into our bodies, but our bodies decay. So it's very important that we're able to map our human genome and fix ourselves. And this is where we've seen, thankfully, exponential progress in terms of mapping the human genome. They try to map the human genome, i.e. exactly what strands of DNA make us what we are. So a complete map of your human DNA. They try to map the human genome back from 1990 and completed it in 2003. That cost $100 million to map one human. And they got 92% of the human up to 2003. They got to 100% of the human in 2022. And today we have a complete mapping of ourselves, each human, not $100 million, but today less than $100. Not $1,000 that's on this chart, that's 2022. Today it's give or take $100. You can pay $100 and get your genome mapped. That means that you can edit your genes. We've talked about this a little bit, and that's it. This is CRISPR technology, which goes in, attaches itself to your DNA strand, and edits the parts of your DNA which are troublesome or are programmed to exhibit disease. And you are born with defective genes in your DNA, which will predetermine whether you get, broadly speaking, cancer or other ailments. And what CRISPR does, it goes on in and edits those genes, takes out the bad one and replaces it with a good one. And CRISPR technology, which again was science fiction even 3 years ago, the FDA in America have just approved the first CRISPR therapy for sickle cell disease, which is a very debilitating blood disease, particularly for children. So the first CRISPR therapy is approved, and this gene editing is happening today. It's also been approved in the UK. You can actually order, I'm not sure I would do this, you can order your own CRISPR kit, $129 off Amazon, and do your own gene editing. I don't know how that works. It says all in one kit. You don't need anything else but water and a microwave. Hands-on experimentation. That sounds a terribly bad idea to me. So I wouldn't do this without medical help, but it's becoming mainstream. in terms of the gene editing technology. And what this will morph into is nanobots, and they're trialing these already. These tiny, tiny nanobots, microscopically small, who navigate your body with repair tools. And you'll be infused with thousands, hundreds of thousands of these nanobots, which will live inside you and repair things before they become a problem. So they'll repair your organs as they're starting to degenerate. They'll spot some kind of disease thing, which the CRISPR thing hasn't picked up, and fix it without you even knowing. So these are being trialed now. They just trialed growing mice embryos in a mechanical womb. This is the first time that anything's been grown outside a human body successfully in terms of a womb structure. A mechanical womb, so a non-biological womb. So in this world, you could grow whole armies of humans. Slightly scary, but this is the kind of stuff which is going on. And in terms of the life longevity, this is a one to finish on, which is interesting, and then we'll talk about the Singularity specifically. This was an experiment done in 2023, a couple of experiments. One was done at Harvard, and they experimented in terms of gene editing, making a mouse older, artificially older, and then making him or her, the mouse, younger again. It worked. The mouse on the right is the older one, and the mouse on the left is the younger one. They're the same age. So a world where not just life longevity, but healthy life longevity and fit life longevity is coming our way within the next decade. So what will this mean? What happens when we get to the Singularity? There are two paths. One would be Utopia, and the other would be dystopia. Let's deal with each. The utopian vision, where we are merged as biological beings with digital capability. A lot of things happen. One would be that we live in an age of abundance. So robots making everything becomes incredibly cheap, close to zero. In the same way, you don't pay for a camera anymore because it's on your phone. You don't pay for a scanning machine anymore because it's on your phone. Everything collapses close to zero. Money loses meaning, wealth loses meaning, and society gets organized in a quite different way. And the way we think about rationing items, like experiences, because something which is not dependent on money anymore. So you get to go on an expensive holiday because you've got money today and you have an amazing experience. Perhaps we ration that in a different way in terms of other people getting to have those experiences. A lot of implications. So an age of abundance, an age where technology is everywhere. We are fully merged with our digital beings. And we look back on today as a very strange time when we had these crazy things called cars, which we used to drive ourselves, with these crazy things called phones, which we looked at the whole time. We had books. I hope we still have books, actually. We had all the things we're used to today, which we just don't have anymore. So we look back on today as a very arcane age. And there'll be items like the phone or the iPad or the computer, which will be interesting quirks of antiquity. Or we get dystopia. AI grows uncontrollably. AI is already teaching itself. I mentioned that. That's happening this year now. So you don't code AI anymore to perform a certain task. You simply put the task in front of it and it learns how to do it. This is how Tesla cars have gone from 300,000 lines of code when you told it how to navigate to today 300 lines of code, which simply says, there's a road in front of you, go navigate. So AI grows uncontrollably by itself. We don't know how that's going to pan out. It becomes the dominant life form, 1 billion times more intelligent than us. And humanity becomes subservient to it or extinct if we're not useful to it. That's a perfectly plausible outcome and one we need to guard against, however we do that. But I've described this as the full immersion and this will bring us to the end of the session. The full immersion, where our consciousness, and this is where it becomes a philosophical debate, our consciousness starts to inhabit the digital realm. So if you think about our organs, the nanobots are fixing our organs. Ultimately, we'll just have a digital heart. We'll just make it, digitize it as you go through. No more organ left inside. Your brain becomes more and more digitized because A, it's attached, and B, it's starting to degrade a little bit. So you augment it through the nanobots. So we become more and more digital. What happens to your consciousness then? Does it remain within your biological self, or does it start to expand outside your biological self? At that point, humanity becomes all-knowing and all-powerful. Homo Deus. Potentially, human consciousness expands outside our physical realm, through the digital realm, and through all realm of matter, to ultimately inhabit the entire universe. And life itself becomes infinite, and to us today, completely incomprehensible. And that, my friends, is the singularity. I very much hope to see it. I think it's an extraordinarily exciting time, and we'd better be ready for it and think about it. And I'd like to look forward to it. I hope that was helpful and hopefully enlightening, and I'll see you next time.